Hey gang, it's Carlos Valdez, and today I want to talk about the Cinemaster 2 again. Coming to you with some tips and some tricks that I learned, sharing some experience in hopes to help somebody. I've been doing some testing with this drone. I've had it for about a month now, and I've been doing a lot of flying with it and testing of the theory of flyoffs, flyaways. I read a lot about that on the EXO drone owners page and just trying to figure out what may be causing that. And I came across some situations that have occurred to me recently that I think I can help explain what may be happening, at least for me in my experience. So I'll give you guys some tips and tricks on that. First, let me start off by saying this particular drone has two speed modes, tripod mode and sport mode. So the one thing that I noticed also is that the app for this drone remembers the last setting you had it on. So if you flew in tripod mode and then landed in tripod mode, turned off your drone, and then you go to fly again the next time, it's going to start off in tripod mode. I'm going to advise against that, and here's why. I'm going to advise you guys, or give you the advice, to always make sure that before you take off, your mode is sport mode, not tripod mode. So when you turn it off and you put it away, it's okay if it's in tripod mode. Next time you go to fly it, when you turn it on, make sure you're in sport mode and don't take off in tripod mode. You're just going to have to remember to do that. I'll explain why. If anything happens with the geomagnetic calibration on this drone, for whatever reason, if you're near metal, if something goes wrong with it and you take off, tripod mode is fantastic when you're filming. It gives you nice, really slow, steady movements, whether you're 200 feet in the air or even if you're doing just like some selfie filming. However, it doesn't give you a lot of control if you need to control the drone very quickly. So if you take off and the drone veers to your right and you got to get control back of it, a lot of folks have posted that I have no control of my drone. I hit the stick, nothing happened. Well, it could be because it's in tripod mode. It is trying, but because it flies so slow, geomagnetically, it's thrown off for some reason and it's drifting. So by starting every time in sport mode, you're going to guarantee that you always have the maximum control of this drone, so that if it does take off and something's geomagnetically wrong with it and it starts to veer on you, left, forward, reverse, up, whatever, you hit the sticks and you're in sport mode. So this is going to give you a lot more control. I actually have an example that I'll talk about of why I think that's important as well, just to kind of drive that point home. Tip number 2 that I also want to give, so we'll come back to that one, is unlike, I have a Blackhawk as well, and the Blackhawk, when the battery gets low on my Blackhawk, it gives me a warning at 40%, it gives me a warning at 30%, and then at 25%, it'll auto return, it will attempt to do a manual landing, an auto return, and you can cancel it. Now, I did some stuff with my firmware on my Blackhawk, so now mine only goes 40% warning, 30% warning, and then at 20%, it attempts to auto return home, and I can cancel it. The key is I am able to cancel it. The Cinemaster does not allow you to cancel the auto return home. So that's important to know for a couple reasons. Number one is whatever your default auto return home height is set to, which is done in the app. I've got mine set to 50 feet. When this thing gets low enough where the battery is so low that it goes to auto return on its own, you can't stop it. You cannot cancel it like on the Blackhawk or some of the other drones. My DJI will allow you to cancel it. My EXO Blackhawk does. You can't. My Ranger, I think, does too, if I remember correctly. I don't have it anymore. So, but you can't stop it. So why is that important to know? Number one, because when this thing auto returns home, it's going to rise up to whatever the default altitude is. Let's say it's 50 feet. And then it's going to turn to whatever direction the last place it took off from was. And it's going to head straight there in a line. It's not going to follow the same path you took to get there. It's going to go the shortest distance between 2 points, which is a line. And if there's a tree in the way and your auto return altitude is 50 feet and there's a tree that's higher than 50 feet or a building or something, it's going to crash into it. So I don't really like auto return home. I think that's a representation of I lost signal or my battery's too low. I don't like to run my batteries very low. So my tip for you guys is this. When this drone gets low on battery, the first thing that happens is you get some yellow writing across the screen on the app that says that you can't fly the drone more than 98 feet high and 382 feet, I believe it is, distance. That's your indicator that your battery is getting low. My advice to you, start thinking about landing, because you only got about another 3 or 4, maybe 5 minutes before that drone goes into auto return home. The battery on this drone, the Cinemaster 2, is pretty decent. So you can get plenty of film and, stills and video within the time frame until this thing says battery's running low and you get that yellow message across the screen. Start thinking about landing and land. Don't let it get to the point where it auto returns home, because you cannot stop the auto return home. And it does kind of freak you out when the drone flies up 50 feet in the air, turns around, and then comes right back. So that's a tip that I'll give for you guys. Now, the testing that I did, which is why I want to come back to the whole tripod mode. This thing, in my opinion, the Cinemaster 2, does not like cold weather at all. I think the geomagnetic compass that's in here, when it is cold, gets all out of whack. I have flown my Ranger when I had it, my Black Hawk, my DJI Mavic Mini, and even my Xeno 2 that I have in some pretty cold temperatures. I've flown them in below 20 degrees, below 10 degrees, and they fly. The batteries don't last very long, but they do fly. This drone here, I can tell you, I've done a couple tests, and here's my experience. And I actually have footage of this, but the gimbal on this drone is so steady that you can't really see what happened properly in the footage. But here's what occurred. About 5 or 6 days ago, I went out, and it was 3 degrees outside. And I said, you know what, I'm going to fly the Cinemaster 2 today. I took it with me. It's going to be a nice day. It's just going to be cold. So I sat in my car all day while I was at work. The car was cold. And then I drove, to a little park near my job after work where I fly a lot. And had been sitting in the car all day. About 3, maybe at this point, it's about 6 degrees outside. Very, very cold. Fahrenheit. Geomagnetically calibrated the drone like I normally would, out in the open, not near any metal. I took off, and the drone immediately veered to the right. I mean, immediately just took off. And I was like, what is going on? Well, I was in tripod mode, so I didn't have a lot of control. It was fighting to get back and just drifting. So I just landed. Almost crashed, and I've never crashed a drone. So, pretty freaky. So the first thing that I did is I realized it was in tripod mode, so I put it in sport mode. Did another geomagnetic calibration, took off again, and this time it just shot forward. It was just way off. But I had a little bit more control. Now I would shoot forward, but because I was in sport mode, I'd come back and bring it back, and I'd bring it back close to me, and it would shoot off in another direction. It was just complete nuts. The thing, I understand why people say Flyoffs. And I just kept fighting it, and after about 10 minutes flying, obviously the internal components of this thing, they get hot. So when that compass warmed up, the drone was steady as a rock. I got it to where it could hover perfect. So that was odd to me, because the only differentiator was it was cold. Now, obviously, if you read your manual, there is an operating range, and I was way outside of that operating range, the operating temperature, that is. So, take a risk. I was doing it as a test. That was my result. So then I went to another location on that same afternoon. I said, I got to figure this out. I really wanted to put some time into this. So I came to a park near my house and again took off. Again, it's about 6 degrees out. It wasn't more than a half hour after my initial flight. Gave the drone some time to cool off, right, on the car ride. Went out to the field in the park. Took off. Again, drone veers, kind of northwest on me. And got it back, control, flew it around, got it to control, finally got it to hover after about 10 minutes. So, closed the book on that for right now. Went home. So, fast forward to today. Today it was 44 degrees. And I said, let me test this theory. So, I went to the same park after work. Drone sat in my car all day. Went to the same park after work, 44 degrees. Did my geomagnetic calibration. Almost to the T, the same spot that I flew in. Drone popped up and just kind of stayed there, hovered perfect. I firmly believe cold weather really affects this drone. And when I'm reading about all these fly-offs, or not all of them, but a few of them that people have posted, and I'm just trying to help them out, I'm seeing that, well, I mean, it's that time of the year. Could they be flying in cold weather? I haven't asked that question yet. But in my test that I've done, it definitely seems to be an issue. So I fly this drone, let's say within operating temperature, above 35 degrees Fahrenheit, no problem. At least that's what I'm firmly believing at this point. On my way home today, I stopped at the second park to, again, complete the test. Once again, popped up at that second location, steady as a bird with the hover, about 44 degrees outside. So I think it has to do with cold. I'm not sure if that's a common denominator on some fly-offs that some folks may have had, if they've been flying in some, coldish type temperatures. But that's something that I really firmly believe could be the case and could be happening with this drone. So make sure you're in sport mode when you take off to give you maximum control. Fly this Cinemaster 2 within the operating temperature range. Above 35 degrees would be my advice, so that you don't have any, craziness. The compass, I think, gets cold and gets thrown out of whack. That's just my opinion. Interested in everyone's thoughts on that. But outside of that, love it. I don't really have much great footage. I've been doing a lot of testing, so there isn't a lot of interesting footage that I can post on this thing just yet. Plus, it's kind of crappy out in upstate New York. But I hope this video helps someone. Another thing that I just want to point out real quick, I'm sporting my EXO hoodie, guys. I got this on their site, $35, really nice quality hoodie. Support these guys. Just another way to show our support to a growing company that's, doing some good things to us. So I got my gear if anybody is interested. It's a pretty nice sweatshirt, I gotta say. I love it. And I try and fly my EXO drones sporting this gear whenever I can. So thanks again, EXO team. I hope this video helps somebody. I hope there's a couple nuggets in here that you can take away. Make sure you fly, take off in sport mode. Do your geomagnetic calibration. Stay away from the cold weather. And land when your drone tells you it's time to start thinking about landing. So thanks for watching, guys. And I'll see you guys in the sky. Happy flying.